Okay, hello and welcome to Vision Without Sight with Gabby, one of my special guests for the day. So, quickly before we get started, brief introductions. My name is Michelle Rico, and I am a soul line success coach. What does that mean? I am here to help you and guide you to connect to your authenticity and understand your true and total potential in order to start creating quantum changes, taking quantum leaps in your career, in your personal life, in your health, in all things. And additionally to that, I am a Be Connected certified expert here to help you make the most use of your Be Connected profile. So, all the things Be Connected set up, different membership options. I'm here to help you with that as well. And with me, I have my good friend of, I think, more than 20 years, Gabriella Mendonca. If you would introduce yourself, please.
Of course. Hi, everyone. I'm Gabby or Gabriella. So I am a content creator, disability advocate, and motivational speaker. And yes, like Michelle said, I've known her for so many years. And she's been such a great friend, a mentor, and just all the things. And I'm really, really excited to be here to talk to you all and kind of share my own journey and, yeah, just have a chat.
Thank you so much, Gabby. Thank you for being here. And I'm so proud that we're here together, right? So
Yeah.
I've known Gabby since I think what Gabby had to be like 4 years old, maybe even
Yeah.
younger. So I'm 31. She's my little brother's little best friend's little sister. So after
Mhm.
all those littles, and we're already adults. We're both adults.
I know. It's crazy.
Yeah, time flies. So my brother's 27, her brother, I think they're the same age.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we've known, the families have known each other since they were in elementary school. So I've known Gabby pretty much her whole life and most of mine.
Yeah.
So it's just so exciting to be here with her. Um, and as seeing her now as this empowered woman, it just makes me proud and excited and fills me with all these great emotions.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabby. So I wanted to start off by asking you about your entrepreneurial journey. How did it start, and how did even the possibility of you being an entrepreneur uh, enter your mind, right?
Hmm. Yeah. So it really kind of started. I mean, I don't want to say out of nowhere because I had really started my speaking sort of journey as a freshman in college when I did the keynote speech for our charter awards dinner that year. And I felt really, really empowered just being on stage and being able to speak about my journey and all those really great things. And then it took a few years, being a freshman at that point, you're still discovering what it is you truly want to do. And for a really long time, I thought music was the number one thing I wanted to pursue. But as much as I love music and it'll always be a part of my life, it wasn't necessarily the number one thing on my mind at the time. So, through going to college and meeting all the amazing people I got to meet and having the experiences that I had, I discovered that speaking was the thing I really wanted to pursue. And so, I want to say junior and senior year, I really reached out to people, reached out to the businesswomen in my own family, like my cousins. I spoke to my older brother, who is a businessman himself, and really just sort of sat down and said, "Is this something that you can also see me succeeding in?" And they all said yes, because for as many years as I can remember, people always told me, like, you have such a great speaking voice, you should really pursue radio, you should do all the things. And so it really just sort of came to me as like, I can do this, like, and I want to do this. And no matter how many challenges I may face in trying to become a powerful and empowered businesswoman, I still want to pursue it. And so it really started once I graduated college. That's when my older cousin, her and I, she helped me through so much of the journey of even starting the business. And I was like, well, what can I do to start? She's like, well, let's just start out with like a simple thing. Let's do business cards, and wherever you go, just sort of start with that. And so it really just started by me having these brainstorm like sessions with my cousin and writing things out and sharing notes and just being in a mode of how can I pursue this and really push myself to continue no matter how hard it gets.
I love that, Gabby. Thank you for
Thank you.
sharing. So it's so amazing that you had such great support from all of your family that they were able to kind of tell you, yeah, you got this. Like, no doubt about it. Go do
Yeah.
what you really, really feel called to do. And you know what? Not a lot of young adults have that, right? A
Yeah.
lot of young adults have this pressure of like, you need to be a successful doctor or lawyer or, the prestigious stereotypical careers, let's say.
Yeah.
And it's so amazing that, you were supported from so many angles to pursue that calling.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
that's awesome. So with that, I would love for you to share a little bit of about like your accomplishments, what projects you've worked on, or maybe like two of the main projects that you're the most proud of, and a little bit of um, some possible obstacles that you had to overcome on those projects.
Okay. Um, I would say one big thing for me was getting out of my comfort zone to make a podcast. Um, that and also just the journey of, building up what it is I want to essentially do. So for me, the first one being the podcast, right? Like it first started as I had a radio class with the faculty advisor of the radio station at my college, and through that he was like, okay, you all need to make a podcast for this show. And so I started doing that, and I was like, I don't know what to talk about, I don't know. And I had to keep asking around because I was like, I don't know what it is that really motivates me that could help motivate other college students. And it first started with like a music thing, and then I was like, I'm not really feeling this anymore. And then I switched over to mental health, and I was really proud of myself and still am really proud of myself for pursuing that because even once I graduated, I asked the faculty advisor, I was like, well, is it done? Like, do I still continue? Can I still continue? And he's like, of course, like this is your podcast. Like you can take it wherever you want to take it. And so I'm really proud that I stuck with it, and to know that it's helped so many people, to even see the analytics at the end of the year of how many people really interacted with that. Like to know that you were a nervous person starting out and not knowing like how is this going to turn out? How are people going to interact with it and like it? And now to see how I'm able to share it with more people and for them to say, I needed to hear that episode where you talked about your self care journey, or I needed to hear that episode where you talked about the time when you were bullied. And so things like that really kind of pushed me to continue to stay with it and to stick with it. So that would be one project. And I think just I use everything as a life lesson and a learning situation, right? A learning experience. And so taking in every single bit of knowledge that I can from the people around me that are in, these beautiful places of what they're thriving and doing. And so I even say like, talking to you, like you are someone that when I get off a call after we've talked about manifestation and visualizations and all the things, like it really does inspire me to see that, there's women out here doing the thing. Like to know that that's a thing is like so empowering. And so I would just say everything I do, I take it as like a learning experience. And To answer the other half about the obstacles, I would just say, just from the blindness aspect, right? Because that's a big part of it too. I can't go through life without remembering that that's a thing. And so I think, as much as I love connecting and meeting and expanding my knowledge, I still have to take into consideration, like, I can do a lot and I won't ever limit myself. But there are things that have come up where it's been an obstacle. So even starting a business, like, that's been an obstacle because, of course, the people that I have in my life are so amazing and support me. But it's sometimes really hard when you are kind of in it yourself. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, they're helping you, but at the end of the day, I think it's still, you have to kind of take what they tell you and apply it to your life and apply it to the parts of what you're doing. And so I think my blindness kind of gets in the way a lot of the times because of the fact that I overthink every situation. And so, with that being said, it's like, I'll constantly be like, can I do this? Like, is this possible? Are people gonna resonate with the things that I say? Are people gonna want to support me? And it's like, stop it. Like, don't do that. Don't talk that way. And I have to kind of like snap out of it. So I would say, like, that's been a really big obstacle for me, especially since graduating college and even during, with a lot of the things that I was doing then as well.
Wow. Well, first, congrats on your podcast. I know that you've had that up and running for like a few years, right?
Yeah.
Which is super cool. And that's a big thing, right? It takes a lot of courage to just speak to people, to speak to a community, to even believe that people want to hear you, right? Because like you said, there's all that inner dialogue happening, that little voice telling us like, no, nobody wants to hear you. Stay in your comfort zone. That's uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's
It
amazing.
is. Thank
And when talking about, your blindness, I love how you said, I no matter what, I can't just ignore the fact or try to pretend it's not there. That, there's this situation, there's this circumstance that you live with and you accept, right?
Yeah.
And like you said, so many people, even though they support you and they love you, like they're never really gonna get it, right?
Yeah.
And if they try, so that I can totally try, like, not understand, but try to understand how that's like a challenge that you pretty much have to overcome every day,
Yeah.
right?
It
So
is, definitely.
so can you share a little bit of like how maybe your mindset in regard to that challenge or that obstacle of like, I have a visual impairment, like knowing this and knowing that like
Mhm.
it's this way and like it is what it is, right?
Mhm.
How has your mindset shifted it toward that situation from maybe when you were maybe a few years ago or a year ago? Like, when do you feel that there was the greatest mindset shift when looking at that, like your blindness?
Mhm. Um, I would say it's definitely shifted, and I think as people we are constantly evolving, right? So it's good to be able to look back. I do a lot of journaling, which helps me to really reflect, and I reflect on the journal entries I made like 4 or 5 years ago, and I would say like, oh, this person, they're not gonna help you because you're blind, or you're not gonna get blah 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 because you're blind, and it's like, I really had the mind shift when I kind of started on my own self-care journey, and that was what really, like, showed me, like, I'm only speaking this way about myself because it's whatever my mind makes up, right? Like, our minds constantly make things up that aren't really true.
Mhm.
And I think I noticed that because from the shift of my first few years of college to where I am now, I'm able to look back and say, like, I'm not that person anymore, in a sense of like, I'm not the person that's constantly thinking negatively about myself. I'm not the person that's, doubting my abilities, because I realize that we're all placed here for a reason. I have a purpose, you have a purpose, we all have a purpose, right? And so it's like, I shouldn't be looking at my disability as like a I don't know, like some sort of thing that could stop me from pushing forward.
Mhm.
And it's all about moments of reflection. It's about moments of like just sitting in silence and really thinking about, well, the way I think about myself now isn't like that. And don't get me wrong, I mean, we all have those moments of like, man, I don't think I could do this, but then you also have to tell yourself, no, like you're not there anymore. You're not in that mindset of that negativity, because if you want to be able to pursue all the things that you want and to show the world the talents that you have, it's important to not limit yourself through what your thoughts are telling you. And that's my biggest thing. And I think just noticing how I practice my self care, how I move through the world and try to educate people, I think that's another way of me really being able to say, like, oh, yeah, this thing I'm carrying with me, this disability I carry with me, it's just a part of who I am. There's so much more to me and to what I'm capable of doing. And so when people try to put limiting beliefs on me or try to pity me because of my disability, I have to tell them, like, you don't have to be sorry for me. You're not the one that has to be sorry for me. This wasn't your fault. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
I'm still breaking barriers. I'm still being independent. I'm still going to continue to push forward no matter what, because that's what I've always known, and that's what I grew up knowing through the people that are in my life and in my family. And so that would be my biggest thing, is just through that journey of self-care and self-reflection and understanding that, also from being bullied as a young girl, like knowing that I was teased so much about my blindness, like that's another thing that really stuck with me for so many years, is like, oh, you're not going to get friends because it's the whole blindness thing. And it's like, no. I think about the people now and I'm like, I have amazing friends in my life that accept me for who I am and don't judge me because of my disability. And that's like a beautiful thing to be able to notice.
Yeah, I love that, Gabby. Really, well, you said so many things and so many things like resonated, starting with the fact that you are like you came to accept that your disability, your blindness doesn't have to be like a hindrance in your life, right? It doesn't have to be something. And I know it's probably not easy for people who are blind to just automatically see it that way, right? It
Yeah.
takes a lot of inner work, a lot of self-care, a lot of mindset shifting. But even with this situation of, you having this disability or any less preferred, I like to call them less preferred circumstances in our lives, we when we learn to see them as, for whatever reason, it needed to be this way, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's, let's say, your blindness,
Mhm.
um, me getting fired from my job that I so worked for so hard,
Mhm.
um, so many things, like even a death in a family. There are so many things that people face every single day that are less preferred, right? Like they're
Yeah.
not, they would be considered misfortunes, right? But when we learn to see these situations from a point of view of, this is part of my process and I am going to accept my process and surrender to it, everything just starts to shift, right? We
Yeah.
start to just flow with things, and things start to flow into our lives, and things need to start to flow out of our lives that don't need to be there anymore. And but it's once we accept and we stop um resisting the reality, like the present moment. We cannot
Right.
resist that present moment. We must just accept it. And just how having a visual impairment can be seen as a hindrance, how about we shift it and say, how can this visual impairment help me tap into things that maybe I wouldn't be able to tap into if I did have my sight, right?
So true. So
And is that something that you kind of reflected on ever?
yeah, all the time. I think even now, as much as I'm in the journey of like trying to use my voice to advocate, it's still a matter of like, I think a lot about, if I was sighted, would I be able to understand X, Y, and Z this way?
Mhm,
And, sometimes that's not the case because when you're not really necessarily educated on a specific topic or a community that's outside of your own, you kind of are blind to reality, is what I like to say. And so, my thing is, it's helped me to grow a lot as a person. And I think it's also allowed other people around me to understand, like, yeah, we're not gonna pity her just because she's our sister, she's our niece or whatever. Like, we're gonna let her understand that, like, there's no need for us to limit her because she is a person and she is a person with feelings and goals and emotions. Like, you know what I mean? And it's like, I think with that mindset as well, it allows me to know that I can do anything that I want and as many things as I want, knowing that my visual impairment is something that has taught me a lot over the years of having it and understanding how to adjust, and also being able to help inspire younger girls that may be new to it, right? Because
mhm.
that's a thing too. Like, there's new people coming into the community, and as a friend once told me, everybody is temporarily abled. And that is the truest thing I think I've ever heard, because as much as someone can be ignorant, and you can't always try to change people's ignorance, you know what I mean? But there's still a matter of like, you could still be temporarily abled in whichever way that could be. And so I think moments like that and really kind of understanding the world in a different view and seeing it in a different way helps me to say, like, I became blind for a reason. Like, I truly feel that way. So
That's amazing. That's amazing that you are genuinely able to say that and feel it, and like not just intellectually just say, yeah, it happened for a reason. Because most of us, that's a very common phrase, right? Oh, everything happens for a reason. I feel like it's so overused. But when you're able to really emotionalize that phrase and say, I am certain, I know that this is part of my process and it's for my highest good, even though I may not understand it or see it right now, I know that this is true.
yeah.
And when we're able to see things that way and look at things from that perspective, like I said, it becomes like a beautiful flow, our lives. So, and then I want to tap back into what you said about um, being blind, helping you kind of understand different things and see things from a different perspective. And it kind of ties back to our title of vision without sight,
Hmm.
right? So, because I want to tap into what your personal vision is for your life, for your career. What do you see yourself becoming in 5, 10 years? Can you share a little bit of that?
Yeah, of course. Um, I really want to help represent people in my community, but I also want to be able to show people outside of this community that it is possible for people with disabilities to thrive and to achieve. And so, if it's through my motivational speaking, through my content, through just, having conversations like these, I really do hope that people take away a piece of inspiration, a piece of, oh, I could do it. Like, you know what I mean? Because I think that we all have the potential to do great things. And I really want to be able to see myself in a career, whether it's in my speaking and all the things that I hope to do, representing my community as a voice, one of the many voices in this community that's helping to bring awareness, to spread the awareness of, you know, yes, there's a stigma and there's a very big stigma around blindness, but hoping to break that stigma and really show other people, especially sighted people, that there's no need to pity, there's no need to feel sorry, there's no need to sort of limit us because we don't allow our disability to define us. I don't allow my disability to define us. And like I say, like I can't speak on behalf of the entire community. I can only use my voice to help bring awareness to it and to allow people to come in and say, I see it now and I get it. And not kind of have this idea of, okay, this is how I have to view them. Because, there's been many situations where people will try to say, oh, well, she can't do it, she's not capable. And of course, people will have those ideas, whether you're blind or sighted. But I think when you have a disability, you work so much harder than other people because you have to show up in the world a certain way and show up for yourself a certain way. And so I think that when that's the case, it's like really just hoping to represent and hoping to make connections with people and inspire people that really need it outside of this community and in this community, and just bringing positivity into the world and love.
That's beautiful. So it sounds like you are, yes, you are, your intention and your goal is partially to make a big impact in the um, community for people with a visual impairment.
Yes.
But also, like, it sounds like you don't just want to be limited to that, because you also want to show people that, like, listen, you can do it. Like, whether you have a disability, you have a difficult situation, maybe it's not a disability, but it's a
Yeah.
difficult situation, or whatever it is, like, whether you have a disability or not, you can do it. Like, it's it's more than like, oh, I'm people with disabilities can do it. Like, we can all do it, right? So that's
Hmm.
that's kind of like what I'm getting from your message there. And also, of course, spreading awareness
Yeah.
for your community, the community of people that have a visual impairment, and trying to get this kind of trying to just make it like normal to like talk about it, right? Because I feel like a lot of people kind of want to tippy toe around, like, oh, like, is this person gonna get offended
Right.
or upset if I ask about her blindness, or
Hmm.
what her, like, why she wears sunglasses, you
Yeah.
know? Like, I feel like even I'm guilty of sometimes, when we've hung out, when we've gone out to, let's
Hmm.
say, when we went to have coffee in New York a few months ago, like,
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to be like help you, but then I'm like, I don't want her to like feel that I'm like doing too much. So it's like finding that, like, helping people find that balance of like, okay, yes, you can be there and be supportive, but also like, don't try to baby me. Like, I don't need to be babied,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And I just think like on both of those things, like, yeah, I definitely want to represent my community, but I think it's also important to allow sighted people in because I think oftentimes there's this kind of misunderstood idea of like, oh yeah, I can't talk about blindness, I can't talk about regular day-to-day things that everybody does. And it's like, I do every single regular day-to-day thing that you do, but
Yeah.
it's just I make it more accessible and adaptable to fit what it is that I would need in order to go through my day, whether it's the technology I use, whether it's how I am able to just kind of move around. And I think that always it surprises people in different ways, right? Because I get the, oh, you're so inspirational in the like sort of like pitiful way. And then I get the, you're so inspirational, thank you for sharing that type of way, which really makes me feel better because if it's one thing I really want to do is to help people understand that it is okay to talk about it. It is okay if you laugh at a blind joke I make because I make those every single day. Like, you know what I mean? And yeah, you're right. Like, I think when you and I hang out, I can tell, and I'll be like, no, like you, I will. I always tell people when they're so like, not with you, because I know like you know what it is, but like with some people that don't understand, I'm like, if I need help with something, I promise I will let you know. But I always try to tell people, let me try to figure something out before I ask for help, because I think for so many years of when I was being bullied and growing up with the mindset of like, oh, you're too much, you're asking for too much. Like, I kind of told myself, like, do what it is you need to do and then ask this person for help. But I think in both of those things that you said, it's just important that, like, in this community, that we allow sighted people and people that aren't in the community to understand that, like, yeah, we talk about things that are normal that you talk about. You know what I mean? Like, they we go on dates, we have friends, we go out, we do adventurous things, and I think that's just the normal thing, because at the end of the day we are normal, it's just our eyes don't work.
Yeah, I love that, Gabby. And talking about um there was something that I wanted to touch on. Oh, so you saying that it's sometimes I get like I want to keep paying attention, but then I also like, wait, what she said, I want to go back to it. Sometimes it's tricky, but I got it. Um, so you said that you always like to try to figure it out on your own before asking for help.
Mhm.
So this is just me kind of asking this reflective question.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's pushing it too much, but do you ever feel, or maybe it hasn't come up, but like would you take a moment to consider reflecting on it? Do you ever feel that you are having to try to, or feel like you have to try to prove yourself a little bit more?
I think that's a really good question, because I think a lot of the times that can be true. And I think in certain situations for me, yes. But I like, even reflecting on that mind shift idea, I think also just just sort of knowing that, like, you know, I don't always have to prove myself to someone. Like, I'm here for me and I have to show up for me the way I need to. And there's not always a need to, prove myself to someone, because I think the way that you can move through your life and the world doesn't mean that you always have to prove yourself or try to prove to someone that you're worthy enough, or that you're, important enough, or that you're all these things. And so I think knowing that there's always not a need to show up that way, because you're your own person and you should only be trying to prove things to yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I asked because I found that when I was younger, I was
Mhm.
constantly trying to prove myself, even to myself. And it was
Yeah.
very overwhelming for me to just, I felt like I had to be super productive and I had to just show up as like the most productive version of myself all the time. Not
Right.
even to prove it to people, but like to prove it to myself.
Yeah.
And even that, I feel like there should be a balance there, because if we know our worth, if we truly know our worth as spiritual divine beings having this physical world experience, we shouldn't have to even prove it to ourselves,
Yeah.
right? That we're worthy. We just know. We just know that we're worthy. And sometimes we don't have to be productive to be worthy. We can just be, we can just exist
Yeah.
and know that even our existence is beautiful and divine,
Mhm.
right? So yeah, I felt like I wanted to touch that there, because I find that not just because of your blindness, but just in general, a lot of people I find we're constantly trying to prove ourselves to us ourselves or to the world, and that can be
Yeah.
very, very, very draining in our process. Okay, so to wrap up, I wanted to maybe get some tips from you, or some insights or suggestions for people who maybe struggle to see, like maybe they have sight physically, like right, their eyes work, but
Mm-hmm.
they struggle to see that big ass vision for
Yeah.
themselves, like themselves in this, like their ideal reality. What would you, maybe two or three things that you would share with them?
I would say one, just allow yourself to be in moments of reflection, because I think that's where you really get to like understand yourself more, is when you're just still, when you get to kind of like have these moments of okay. But also, I think just exploring what it is that you love, because that's the biggest way that I think you will be able to discover what it is that you truly genuinely want to do and to really find your purpose. Don't be afraid to step out your comfort zone and allow yourself to, you know, explore something that maybe you never would have before. Because when you're able to make connections with new people and make friends with different people, it allows you to open your mind and your eyes to a possibility that's like in front of you. Because I think truly that when you're able to just sort of have those moments of discovery, self discovery, soul searching, whatever you want to call it, you'll be able to tap into your own modes of creativity, your own modes of, you know, well, what is it that I truly, truly love? And I think sometimes you're right, people do struggle with that. But I
Mhm,
think really having a moment of, I want to do this for myself, and I just know that there's something out there for me, but it's about discovering it, you
mhm,
know,
mhm,
and meeting people that can guide you along the way. Find a mentor, um, because they will definitely be a great help in your journey of self discovery. And don't feel like you're alone, I think is a big one too, because you're not alone. There's many people that are
mhm.
in the same boat as you.
Thank you, Gabby. I love, you touched on a bunch of things that I'm
Yeah.
so big on. So one of the things is finding your unique talents and abilities, which is kind of like what you really love to do, what you're passionate about, which is so, like, we all have unique talents and abilities. We just don't know it. They're buried underneath all these limiting beliefs and all these fears and all these doubts, right? So connecting to that is so important in this creating your big vision journey.
Yeah.
So I love that. And you also touched on mentorship and allowing yourself to just be guided, kind of put that maybe guard down a bit, which
Hmm.
is also so essential. I love those tips that you shared, Gabby. They're super powerful. Like, let's highlight again, connecting to pretty much what I introduced myself as, right? Like connecting to your authenticity.
Yeah.
So connecting to who you really are, creating that connection to self is so important, rather than like to the mold that maybe society impressed upon you.
Yeah.
That's so important. So thank you, Gabby, for that. And before we wrap up, I do want to invite our viewers to check out Gabby's link tree link is on the bottom left hand corner. You can go ahead and connect with her there. She has all her links there to her social media platforms. Do you want to share all the links that you have there? Because I just saw, like, I quickly skimmed through it. I saw like your social media, YouTube. Can you tell us what else is in those links?
Yeah, so it's my Instagram, my TikTok, even though I'm not really on there much, but yeah, my Instagram, my TikTok, the link to my podcast, my YouTube, and my website if you want to book me as a speaker.
That's amazing, Gabby. Awesome. And you're also here on Be Connected.
Hmm.
I I should have pulled up your link. It's okay. Well, you can be sure to connect with Gabby. I'll see if I can tag her in the post so you can connect with Gabby, check her out here on Be Connected or on any of her other platforms that she uses. You can also go ahead and connect with me, stay connected with me in my link tree, which is on the upper right hand corner. And we can go ahead and wrap up for today's chat, Gabby. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michelle. I had such a great time, and yeah, I really enjoyed this. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Actually, like I we were talking a few moments ago about potentially doing more of these. So I'm looking forward to that and maybe cultivating a greater community with these conversations that we're having.
Yeah, I would love that. That sounds amazing.
Awesome, Gabby. Alrighty. So I'm gonna go ahead and just finalize this. Connect with us and have a lovely rest of your day and week.
Thanks, everyone.